I guess so. Daze grabs their food as an apology and an attempt to get on Chuya's good side. And they saunter through the alleyway in Maifusu and get to their building. This is certainly different to Yokohama. Hey, Chibi, is this your first time out of Yokohama? Why do you care, bastard? He huffs defensively, before wincing as he turns away from Dazai. Maybe it is. Dazai laughs as they clamber up the fire escape, offering a hand to Chuya, which he denies. The metal is very cold at this time of night, compared to the chilly weather of winter. His hands feel like they're about to go numb. Am I not allowed to ask questions, Chuya? Chuya should stop jumping to such weird conclusions. He won't make any friends with that attitude, Dazai wagging his finger. Chuya, who still hasn't reached the top of the building yet. I'm gonna push you off this building if you're so much worse than I am. You heartless mackerel. Dazai chuckles at Chuya's comment as they devour the food that Chuya bought. The night stars shine brighter than Yokohama. It does have somewhat evil aura shouting it. Guessing it's also home. He leans back as he supports himself with his arms, letting his legs stretch out. He can see the stars better now. Chuya sits cross-legged, too invested in his food to care about anything else. Oh my god. This is better than the cafe in the Port Mafia building, Chuya says as soon as he finishes his food, slamming the takeout counter down before floating it down to whatever dumpster is at the bottom of the building. For once, I agree with you. The two mindlessly bicker as usual. Dazai continues to eat, rather slowly. He offers the remains of his food to Chuya, who gladly accepts. So, are you going to get recruited to the League of Villains? Like, how? Dazai prompts, shooting forward his legs, hanging over the building. I'm pretty sure Mori wants me to storm in or something. He told me they value strength, so I gotta show off a bit and complain about Hero Society or some shit. They should recruit me. Chuya shrugs. That sounds easy enough. The League of Villains is a horrible name. I know, right? They both laugh as they spend one of their only civil nights together, watching the night take its course. Dazai sometimes wishes they'd stay like this forever. Dazai sighs dramatically as the morning sun peeks through the blinds. Chuya and he have settled into their apartment well enough now. The UA exam is today. Chuya is off to recruit himself to the villain's side, while Dazai is unfortunately about to fulfill his task, the grueling job of going to school. His bedroom is still plain, despite him inhabiting it for over a week already. He doesn't really have many belongings besides the whiskey bottles he shoved into the corner of the shipping container. He supposes it's time for them to start their adventures in the underground of Maifusu. A fake ID would be a good asset for someone less legal activities. But that should wait until he does the exam for UA. He's going to have 1 month of free time until school begins. Dazai idly hums a song found on the radio yesterday, dressing in a simple striped long-sleeve black and white shirt over a loose but flexible black cargo-style pants. He doesn't want to draw too much attention to himself. If the teachers become too suspicious, it would be undesirable. He has no interest in bright-eyed hero hopefuls. Dazai pockets an open cigarette box as he packs up his satchel bag. He opts to wear the clothes he's wearing for a practical exam because changing there is a definite no. Or at least for as long as he can. He knows it's sort of inevitable anyways. Going to school in his combat clothes is just more convenient. He can use that time changing for things like killing himself. How wonderful. He puts fingerless gloves with spikes on the knuckles so he can easily slice skin that he made a while back. Good to punch robots' weak spots. Dase slides his familiar black coat. It's perfect for the entrance exam, with many pockets, so it isn't noticeable to the eye. Maybe a bit too extra, but he does need the pockets. He leaves the apartment with plenty of time to spare. UA is luckily only 15-minute walk away, and he does get to enjoy the lovely cold air on his walk. He hopes he spots some cowering students to make him feel better about having to do this. He still cannot believe that he has to do this exam. The sheer idea of him doing it is crazy. He lights his first cigarette of the day. The smoke crowds his lungs. He feels the anxiousness fade away in a light buzzing under his skin. Dase allows himself to bask in the pleasant feeling. The large building of UA arrived on the line of vision as it settles in. He's going to a fucking hero school. Chapter 2. Robots and exams do not mix well. How do they fund such a large school? He knows for sure that the fees are dirt cheap in comparison to many other top hero schools, but somehow they have the top facilities out of all of them. The large towering form of UA does nothing to make him feel welcome. In fact, it almost feels like he's walking into a death trap. Dase hurries past the anxiety-filled examinees. He has to find the testing hall. The negative energy is terrible here. Dase is shockingly a bit nervous about the practical, because it's inevitable that he will stand out with his array of not-so-legal-looking support items. It's not like there are any other options, though. He'll probably stick out during the actual classes either way. Dase arrives to see many desks and chairs lined up in rows with names on them. The UA hall is massive, with large roofs and sunlight streaming either side. It seems to be some sort of gymnasium. He notices that each desk has some sort of name and student number on them, so he quickly finds his own desk and sits down, eager to start. With 20 minutes before the official start, the hall is barely filled. Dase takes out his phone and idly answers inquiries from his subordinates and plays some random game on his phone. It seems like very few people have been notified of the details of Chuya and his assignments. It must be quite confusing to have both members of Sakoku gone from Yokohama. If an enemy organization feels like striking, it's prime time. Dase assumes that Mori has made up some sort of cover story for them for now. The room quickly fills up with chatter and echoes throughout it before quick mic taps by Nezu silences the crowd. Good afternoon. Today all of you are here because you're aspiring heroes. This is the first part of the UA High School exam. You will have an hour to complete the written test, which covers an array of subjects. After the time is up, you will have a 30-minute break before you meet up in the auditorium for a briefing on the practical exam. Any questions? Nobody raises their hand, all eager to start the test. A few teachers hand out test booklets that are distributed and a countdown starts. It can't be that hard. It's only a high school exam. Dase gets to work on the booklet, shuffling through questions. It's all easy work for him. He isn't named the Demon Prodigy for no reason. Since UA is a top school, Chuya isn't smart enough to even pass the entrance exam. That's one of the only reasons Dase is stuck with the worst job. As he approaches the end of the test, there are almost 40 minutes left. Doing what he does best, he confidently raises his hand and addresses one of the supervising teachers who walks over to me. Excuse me, miss. I'm done with the written test. May I leave the testing hall? Dazai asked, much louder than necessary. Some of the other contestants glance at him nervously. He can feel their eyes trailing his form with his content smile. The hero that he addresses with long hair and red glasses. Midnight, he recalls. Sweetheart, are you sure you're done? She inquires as she leans toward him and his complete test papers. I am. My, we certainly have a competent examinee over here, she purrs. You can head out of the hall into the cafeteria. Midnight collects his test papers and walks past his competitors with an air of superiority. Dazai sits alone in the cafeteria. He must be the first person to finish the exam. Quite a feat of his. Chuya must hear about this. He's pretty sure in time before the practical exam. The lunch guy is supposed to be serving snacks. Dazai searches the room for any sort of food, but finds himself evaluating the room itself instead. One would think a high school such as renowned as UA would be fancier, but the halls are quite simple, and the cafeteria is nice. Sure, but not that nice. A few examinees leave the testing hall before designated stopping time, and they awkwardly mill around the cafeteria area, much like Dazai did when he first arrived. Some group up to chat in hushed whispers. Others are content to go on their phones or plug in their earbuds. As soon as the exam finishes, teens storm into the cafeteria eagerly. Deciding it is simply too busy, he slips out into one of the hallways to sit in peace. Dazai waits and waits, reading his lovely suicide book again. At least his familiar red company has company. Death by piranhas. Doesn't that sound appealing? To be honest, I'm always up for drowning. But being eaten alive is a different story. It sounds too painful. He observes the few crowds of students making their way into the auditorium, chatting away. Dazai always registered that all the weapons and tools he had engineered, so he has no need to change or anything else. He follows the crowd that shoves his book back into his bag. When he arrives, he drops onto the seat in the back and waits restlessly for an explanation to begin. Lights dramatically switch as the pro hero Present Mike jumps eagerly onto the stage. His hair is slicked up in almost comically, his teeth bearing in a jolly smile. Welcome to my show today. Everybody say hey! Present Mike enthusiastically yells, leaning back dramatically. Hey! Dazai shells back, pumping his arms in the air. He likes this man's energy. The two people beside him look vaguely uncomfortable, to which Dazai huffs. No one has any enthusiasm these days. The hero gives him a thumbs up and a wink, which Dazai returns eagerly. I like your spark. Now, with the robots. He begins explaining the point system. It is, as Dazai expected, robots. Although, what he should be doing is using all of his lovely inventions. It may turn on him. If he relies solely on support gear, teachers may be hesitant to reward him with points or place him in the hero course. You could label him as inexplicable or dangerous. He is definitely capable with a gun, that is. Fighting robots usually isn't on his daily agenda. These are more Chuya style, if anything. An examinee raises his hand. When Present Mike calls on him, he stands up abruptly, almost like a robot himself. On the printout, there are 4 types of faux villains. If that is to misprint, then UA is the most prominent school in Japan, should be ashamed of such a foolish mistake. We examinees are here at this place because we wish to be exemplary heroes, he yells, and turns to a boy somewhat further up and point at. And you over there with the curly hair, you've been muttering this whole time. It is distracting. If you're here on a pleasure trip, then you should leave immediately. Who would stick up his ass? Dazai prays he doesn't pass the exam and breaks his legs while he walks down a flight of stairs. The boy with curly hair points to Squeaks in response. Dazai can't catch. Squeaks out a response that Dazai can't catch before sliding further into his seat. The boy seems uncomfortable, but it doesn't seem that it was from embarrassment specifically. Dazai searches around the boy when his eyes land on a prudish-looking boy with spiky hair, the same uniform as the green-haired one. Green hair glances at the spiky hair every few seconds in fear and starting to clouding his eyes. The way he's acting toward the spiky hair makes it obvious that there's some weird familiarity between them. But there's also a clear power dynamic. The blonde is egotistical, judging by the way he looks down upon anyone who turns his way. As well as his body language, he's confident that he can ace the exam. So he must have quite the powerful quirk. Childhood friends to bully victim situation, Dazai guesses. Maybe he'll ask if they're dating. Anything to piss off the Chuya but worse guy. Dazai internally debates the best ways to anger his soon-to-be classmate. President Mike diverts his attention back to himself again, almost relieved that the green-haired boy almost to the relief of the green-haired boy. The lights flickered to him like a spotlight. Okay, examining 7,111. Thanks for the great message. He puts a thumbs up as the projector light shows another few robots. There is a fourth type of villain, worth 0 points. But this guy's just an obstacle. There's one in every battle center. An obstacle that will go crazy in narrow spaces. It is not impossible to defeat, but there is no reason to defeat it either. I recommend you listeners try to avoid it. Thank you very much. Please excuse my interruption. The uptight, annoying blue-haired boy says as he sits down. A few whispers make their way through the auditorium, excitement and nervousness buzzing through the air. Finally, I'll give you listeners a present. Our school motto. The hero, Napoleon Bonaparte once said, a true hero is someone who can overcome life's misfortunes. Go beyond. Plus ultra. President Mike yells perhaps a bit too loudly. Now everyone, good luck suffering. Good luck suffering. The cheers that echo throughout the auditorium are half-hearted and pathetic, obviously by people whose minds are occupied by more important things. The students are allowed a 10-minute period to change into clothes more suited for exercise. Dazai looks down at his ID card, finding the Group D symbol on it. He looks around, spotting the sign to the bus. The bus ride is short and awkward, with muted chatter. UA has separated all of the students by the same school into different arenas beforehand. So, unless someone is really lucky, most people are left to be friendless during their practical trials. He finds himself next to a boy with a manga panel replacing his head. He wonders what will happen if he nullifies him. But what if he kills him? Worst case scenarios. Come on, you can't be murdering people in plain sight. Mori had to put on a school record they went to a small school in Hiroshima for middle school. This school is uniform free, so he wouldn't be required to turn up in one. It's risky to put down a school that he definitely didn't go to. If UA calls the supposed school inquires about him for some reason, it would be a very awkward situation. He stuck out if he said he'd been homeschooled, though. So either option poses the same amount of risk. He's sure if he blends in, everything will be okay. Dazai didn't go to school until 5th grade, and after that, he was recruited to the Port Mafia, sort of. He didn't officially join until last year or so. He was, in Mori's case, for those years in between. It was terrible. Maybe the horrible things done to him were for the better. He wouldn't want a monster like him to thrive in society. No. He's much better in the shadows. Everyone gathers near the starting line, shoving each other lightly to try to get place in the front of the line. Dazzy slides on his fingerless gloves, holding his knife in one hand. He plans to just lug around extra weapons unless he needs them desperately, or if he's not racking up enough points. That would be a tad confusing to the teachers for a 15-year-old to be proficient in many types of weapons. Better stick to the plain old dagger. Your 10-minute starts now. Go! Midnight, the same hero in the testing room announces enthusiastically. Some of the examinees freeze up because of unexpected countdown, but Dazai's reaction time is greatly improved compared to a normal teenager. He pushes past his competitors and starts running as fast as he can. Dazai takes the lead. Not for long, obviously. There are many quirks that improve one's speed, but which is useful for time-based exam like UA entrance exam. Dazai has nothing but a cursed ability, so he relies solely on his physical capabilities. He approaches a one-pointer and searches for weak points on the bulky armor. The eye appears to be a glowing target, probably set up to persuade an examinees to aim for it, but that's not exactly what Dazai does. He jumps up and plunges his knife right into the robot's eye. It sputters and comes to a complete stop, falling down. He has to earn at least 40 points to pass, he assumes. But that also includes the rescue points. If he accumulates about a bit over 25 villain points, he will be able to get another 25 rescue points, more or less. He also, almost certain rescue points are part of the real, actual point system. It just doesn't make sense for there only to be points for violence when the whole hero idea is saving people. So rescue points, or hero points, are the ones that reward from helping other examinees. In Dazai's opinion, these are much easier to obtain than villain points. Less frolicking involved. Dazai directs his attention to the next two robots, both two-pointers. He clambers onto one of them, the robot attempting to fling him off. He reaches to the head of the robot, crouches above it, flinging his knife into the eye of the approaching two-pointer, and pointing the one he's on top of and using spiked gloves. They power down somewhat simultaneously. As Dazai retrieves his knife from the robot's eye, he continues to pull similar stunts, pulling others out of the way of harm between attacking robots. He mentally tallies up point counters, 24 villain points, 4 minutes left. He's about to collect his 25th point when a whole testing arena rumbles like there was an earthquake. A massive shadow approaches like it sent it from heaven itself. Examinees frantically scurry out away from the large robot. Dazai would be a bit more scared too if you weren't interested in the market of dying. It must be the zero-pointer that the one that they were told held no worth. It was probably true, but there's an opportunity to spot people who stand out. Luckily, he's supposed to blend in. He follows the crowd, hoping other injured examinees on the way. He still needs to secure a spot with rescue points, after all. He makes a quick work of a few stray one-pointers as he approaches the exit. As he ducks into an alleyway and catches his breath, there's an announcement. The exam finishes.